Okay, students, welcome back. This is the second screencast. My iPad froze on the first one. But Romeo goes into a rant here in Act 1, Scene 1 about love and hate. And he talks that when he says, here is much to do with hate, but more with love. And it's an interesting comment because he's really commenting on what has happened in the past between the two families. So it seems to me that there must be some sort of familial conflict that has to deal with love, because there is that thin line between love and hate. And Romeo recognizes this, and he goes into a large rant full of oxymorons. Now, oxymorons are contradictory words that are put together to give more meaning to what it is that the character or the author is describing. And when he talks about love, he puts opposites together. He says heavy lightness, a serious vanity, misshapen chaos of well-seeming forms, feather of lead, bright smoke, cold fire, sick health. And when he goes on this rant, Benvolio starts laughing at him. And he says, well, why are you laughing? He says, you know what, I'd rather weep. And Romeo asks why, and he says, because you're so depressed. And so it's really to kind of snap Romeo out of his funk. But Romeo won't let go of it, right? He says that love is a smoke raised with the fume of sighs, okay? So basically, love becomes apparent when you begin to sigh heavily. If it's purged, right? If it's given oxygen, then it becomes a fire sparkling. But if it's vexed, it becomes a sea. Notice the opposites here. When he does this juxtaposition of terms, what he's really saying is that there's two sides to love. And when he says it's a madness, you start to get this idea of his passion and how he feels about love. He says it can choke you, it can preserve you. And he's done with his rant, and he says, farewell. And Benvolio says, no, you can't leave me. If you do so, you're doing me wrong. And Romeo literally admits, I have lost myself. I am not here. This is not Romeo. He's some otherwhere. So we get a real idea that he's out of sorts. He's not his same person. And Benvolio asks, well, tell me in sadness, who is it that you love? And Romeo kind of messes with him. But he does say, you know what, I do love a woman, but, why make a sick man talk about how sick he is? And Benvolio's, well, I pretty much assumed that it was a woman. And Romeo makes a nice comparison here to archery, and we'll see this pop up too, especially throughout Shakespearean plays because of the time period, right? 1500s, 1600s. He says, you're a good marksman, and she's fair, right? Beautiful, the one that I love. And Benvolio says, well, a fair mark is soonest hit. And Romeo says, well, in that hit, you miss, because she'll not be hit. So a little play on words here, but basically what he's saying is that the girl he loves does not love him. And he makes an allusion here to Cupid, right? The son of Aphrodite, the goddess of love. She has the goddess Diana's wit, right? The goddess of the hunt, the goddess of chastity, right? One who does not give in to carnal pleasures. And here he talks about Cupid again. From his weak childish bows she lives unharmed, so she will not be hit. So a lot of thick allusions there to ancient Roman and Greek goddesses. But this is an interesting passage right here. She will not stay the siege of loving terms. A siege is a term of warfare. And it's interesting that Romeo would use that. But he basically says that he's given her all the one-liners that he can think of, right? Try to schmooze her with his words. But she won't bide by the encounter of assailing eyes. So he's given her the looks, but she will not again give in to the encounter. She will not open her lap to saint seducing gold. I'll let you ponder that. But basically, he's thrown money at her, and she still refuses. But he says, basically, she's literally wasting herself because of it. So because Romeo's tactics didn't work, he believes that she's going to die without ever loving anyone. And he says, well, she's going to live, or she has sworn to be chaste. And Romeo says yes, and makes huge waste. So if you look up chastity, you'll understand what that means. Basically saying she's so beautiful that she should have children. But basically she makes him despair because she has forsworn to love. And he lives dead that lives to tell it. Notice all the reference to death here, okay? Death is definitely a motif that pops up over and over and over again. And every time you see it, just kind of make note of it, right? Benvolio says, well, forget to think of her like a good wingman will. And he's like, well, how should I? And he says, give liberty unto your eyes. Basically, freely look around, see what's out there, examine other beauties. And Romeo says, well, basically, that will only make mine look more beautiful, right? Anyone you show me, what does her beauty serve but as a note? And notice the reference to writing. This will be another motif. Writing. Her beauty, anyone you show me, her beauty will serve but as a note where I may read who passed that passing fair. So basically just a note compared to the tome or novel of Rosaline. But Benvolio again makes a promise that he would pay that doctrine or teach him how to forget unless he died, or he will die in debt. One thing I want to point out to you is at the end of key scenes, you will see a rhyming couplet. And the couplet really tells the actors that are on stage waiting to come out that this is your cue. Get ready. And we move into scene 2.